The mainstream media is starting to notice that DC really has killed its brands. Now, of course, they're focusing on the theater brands, where we've actually watched as they've torched the comic brand over the last 10, 15 years to a very similar degree. And both actually are subject to the exact same reasoning as to why this brand has been destroyed and why audiences are not coming out to see these films. It's pretty simple, but at the end of the day, these people don't understand it, and they're lamenting why. Because Hollywood just doesn't understand the people. They just don't understand the fans. And of course, the comic book industry, the mainstream one, doesn't understand the people and doesn't understand the fans too. These are people who have been put into these corporate positions. They're elites who don't get what make these properties great. And this is, at the end of the day, why it doesn't translate. They always hire people who don't like the properties, don't know anything about the properties, or actively loathe the properties. And that's exactly what goes on in these industries. I have no idea why that is, but it seems to be consistent across the board. And we see it just sinking more than just DC. We see it sinking Star Wars. We see it sinking the Marvel Extended Universe. Everything has been just circling the drain because of people who don't understand what they're working on. We'll get into that in just a moment. So here's the Hollywood Reporter article. Where have all the DC fans gone? After a string of bombs with the reboot on the horizon, Warner Brothers has more to do. More than make fans believe a man can fly. It has to make them believe that this time there's a willingness to see that flight to a destination. I really think when Marvel came out with its universe, that everything having to cross and tie in and build to the next thing, which is going to build to the next thing and build to the next thing, really opened up something kind of bad for all of these companies. You can't just watch a film and enjoy it anymore. What made those early Marvel movies such a great success, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, was that they were standalone movies. Yeah, they had their little end credit thing where, it's going to tease the next one, but beyond that, they felt like their own movies. They didn't feel like it was just some sort of episodic thing that's like going to help you try to tie into something else. And that's exactly what the Disney Plus shows all fail at, right? This is why nobody likes them. They all seem like they're just like little vignettes that are tying into some other movie. And by themselves, they just don't stand. They don't hold water. Now, when DC tried to replicate this with their kind of DC universe, they're just throwing as many superheroes against the wall as they possibly can. And gosh, I was going to read the article and actually go through this, but I have my own thoughts on this, and they're smarter than the Hollywood Reporter, believe it or not. So they just threw everything they could against the wall, and they had just changing visions across the board over and over and over again, to where it's like the tone of one movie is ridiculous. The tone of The Flash was just, I don't even know. It was so all over the map, you couldn't even like get through it in its own movie. The tone of Wonder Woman was very serious, but the tone of 1984, not very serious. It's all such a shift back and forth that it just changes the direction, and audiences don't know what they're going in for. And eventually they just get burnt out and go, you know what? The last few movies have kind of sucked. I'm not going anymore. And gosh, they're just going to reboot everything anyway at this point. So why would I even bother? Because they're starting a new universe tie-in thing. And this film's probably not going to stand on its own. And that's exactly where people are feeling. So when things got together, I mean, the original sort of movies that DC was producing was great. We had The Dark Knight with Christian Bale. We had Man of Steel, of course, which was a really good superhero movie. We had the original Wonder Woman movie, which was fantastic. But then they started to try to mix these things and do what Marvel did with pushing things into these crossover films. We had the Superman Batman film. Then we had the Justice League film. And they were all disasters because there were just too many cooks with too many different ideas trying to just push in different directions all the way around. Now, the comic universe has been very similar to this. We had Dan DiDio, who is the head of publishing at DC Comics, just stuck in a spot where DC really wanted him to reboot stuff every couple of years. They wanted all these all-new number ones in order to get the funds from the all-new number ones. So he's pressured to change things and pressured to push the company into these different directions over and over and over again. We had New 52, and then quickly we had Rebirth. Then we were going to have 5G. Everything's a reboot and a reboot and a reboot. And people get tired of reading that too, because again, you get to a point where it's like, none of these stories actually matter. Whatever we feel like erasing today or erasing tomorrow won't actually matter in terms of a story. So we can't actually just enjoy this on its own anymore. And this is where DC is at this point. I don't know if it can be rescued. I don't know if this new reboot is going to fix things and tie everything together any better. What they need to go back to doing for all this stuff is actually just focusing on the single film and making that single film great. Make these characters the iconic way that they are supposed to be. Make them actually fight evil and be good. Don't make them like whining Tom King Batman who sits there in his Batcave, and this is in the comic over the last few years, and just cries while strong female leads save Gotham. Like that's exactly what they were doing. Nobody wants that out of Batman. It's not fun. It's not good for audiences. And so if they really want to fix these things, they're really going to have to focus on the individual films, focus on the characters and what makes them great. Now, are they capable of doing this? I don't know. I mean, Snyder might be able to do something, but James Gunn, too many different people. James Gunn might be able to do something in this regard, but I just don't have any hope at this juncture because they've pushed things so far on every single level in both Marvel and DC to where it's like, gosh, you just can't watch a movie and have fun anymore. Then you add politics on top of it, and this is where it really gets into trouble. All these actors go out there, they act like they're nuts. We had Ezra Miller screaming at cops saying he's a they, them, and that not to misgender him as he's getting arrested for like rampant drug use and problems that are happening. I mean, you see this sort of thing from the star, you don't really want to go watch this film, and you can't really believe that he's a hero. His portrayal as the Flash really didn't make him look like a hero either, but that's beside the point. When you have all this stuff going on, it causes problems, of course, and it makes it very difficult for you, again, to just want to go have fun and see a movie. Until Hollywood can recapture that to some level, until they want to make the movie actors the most beautiful person out there who has the most talent, until they want to make the film just a fight of good versus evil for a superhero film, which is what it's supposed to be, we're never going to get anywhere in this juncture. So we'll see what happens with DC. But the fact that the Hollywood Reporter is actually being like, gosh, this is wild, how Blue Beetle is failing so badly. What happened here? It means that the investors are noticing, and that means a crumbling at the highest levels of Hollywood. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.